All right, it's the matinee show. I think it's 57, maybe, something like that.
Something like that.
Somewhere around there.
It's Halloween.
Yeah,
Halloween just ended.
We're recording this on Halloween night, actually. And this is, I know it's like a new background. Look at how exciting this is.
Yeah, this is the den.
We're sitting at our kitchen table.
Yeah. Well, yeah, is this the kitchen table? It's the copa.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Or breakfast
That's the
nook,
den back there.
if you'd like to be kind of pretentious about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just shut down the Halloween festivities because we pretty much ran out of candy.
Got some left.
And we wanted to at least a couple of handfuls for us, guys.
Towards the end, it was like 15 and 16-year-olds hit me up. They weren't even in costumes.
Well, yeah.
Or they slide.
I used to do that, but I usually had a costume. I usually I don't know if you guys know, but go look on YouTube. There's a song by the Swingin' Neckbreakers, and it's called "No Costume, No Candy." Yeah, and it's kind of about his policy about
if you have costumes,
kids turning up and with no costumes on, and he's like it's very, very funny. So you should go check it out. So let's see, what did we do this week? We saw
all good movies.
One on Shudder, which is our Creepshow review, like we do every week. We saw one on Netflix, and we saw one in the theater.
Yeah.
So the first one we're going to be talking about Creepshow, the series, episode 5.
Yeah, this one was a good entry. I think it was the weakest out of them all so far.
I tend to agree with that.
But it was still good.
Yeah,
still good.
These are all decent. Like even the ones like you said. I think that's kind of like from other people's reviews. That seems to be kind of the consensus is that this is probably the weakest one so far.
Yeah, but not bad by any means.
But no. So the first story was called Night of the Paw. And this was written by John Esposito and directed by John Harrison, who has directed a bunch of other segments for the show. This is actually a loose retelling of the very, very famous W.W. Jacobs short story, The Monkey's Paw, but done with like a little bit of a twist type of thing. Basically, it's like an old guy, and he saves this woman that's, in a car accident. He cuts off her fingers. That's pretty gruesome because they're broken or whatever. And then it turns out, when she wakes up, it turns out that this is a funeral home, and this guy has a monkey's paw, essentially. And he kind of tells him about the 3 wishes and everything like that. One cool thing I liked about this was the monkey's paw itself. Because I guess each new person that gets it, it's a monkey's hand, so it has 4 fingers and a thumb, but its little pinky is gone, but its little fingers, every time you make a wish, one of his little fingers curls up. So when a new person gets the monkey's paw, when the wishes reset, then its little fingers uncurl. So that's how you know how many wishes you got left.
Yeah.
I have to say about this, though, and I feel maybe less so than in the original story. People, just as a pro tip, if you ever get a monkey's paw that gives you 3 wishes, be very, very careful and very, very specific about what you wish for, because this monkey's paw jazz, if you just say some random shit, oh, I want my wife back, or and she's dead and everything like that, that's not going to end well. Right. You have to very specifically say what you want and shit like that, because that's kind of the whole premise of this thing, and what this guy is trying to tell this woman is that, his wife, they wished for all the money, pretty much everyone would, and then the wife ends up dying in a horrible way.
That's how he got the money.
That's how he gets the money.
Right.
So
life insurance.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, well, you wanted money. You didn't say how. Exactly. Right. See what I mean? So then he wants to wish her back from the dead, but unfortunately, there's a loophole there too.
That's kind of this is always. It's really kind of the same problem, or the same thing that they talk about with stories about Jed and Jeannie. Yeah. Is that genies were evil. Yeah. They were entrapped for a reason. Yeah. And they were bastards. So you made a wish. We're not talking about Aladdin genies. That's a friendly genie. No. Yeah.
These are mean genies.
A true jinn. All right. Yeah. And I think this is even pre-Islamic stuff, going back into into the Persian Empire, lore. Genies were demons. Yeah. They were demons that had been enslaved by a damn wizard. What did they call a wizard? What was a Persian wizard? There was a name for them, but I forgot.
I can't remember.
But yeah, so you might ask for a wish, but it was just an opportunity for the jinn to fuck you over.
To fuck you over.
Right. So you had to be a wise fucking sorcerer or magician to know how to ask for a wish.
Yeah.
You had to trap a genie even in the wish. So, you had to get him trapped in it.
You have to be, like, super specific. And, like...
Yeah.
And, okay, the thing about this one, like, I actually quite liked this story. This was, it was kind of a weird episode because the first segment was way longer than the second one, even though the second one could have done with a bit more fleshing out, but I'll get to that in a minute. So this was, like, a fairly long episode. I think it was, like, 25 or 30 minutes. And so this, so this guy spends this whole time, like, telling this woman about essentially what ended up happening with this monkey's paw, and like how you have to be really careful and stuff. And now she doesn't believe him at first, which, that's understandable and shit like that. But when she ends up with the monkey's paw, she immediately does like really dumbass shit. Like, here's the thing though. It's like she doesn't believe it at first, but then the monkey's paw seems to like, I guess you don't have to like say the wish like right to its face. Like normally you would have to think, hey, I wish for blah, blah, blah. But apparently she just wishes for something like in her head without saying it out loud. And the paw is like, okay, I can do that for you. You know what I mean? So yeah. I don't know what the whole rules of it are. But then like, so she realizes that it works. And then at the very end, she makes like the dumbest ass wish ever. She's trying to bring her husband back from the dead, but all she says is something like, get up. In a morgue.
Right.
And you can imagine how well that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually quite liked this segment. A lot of reviews I read, they didn't like this one so much, but I actually liked it because they're like, look, the monkey's paw has been adapted so many times, at least like 100 times in various mediums. Because it's a very old story. We all read it in school and shit like that. But I thought it was kind of a cool twist on it. I didn't mind it. And I thought it was like, the acting was good. Like, it was shot really nice and stuff like that. So I didn't have a problem with it.
The whole episode was good.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It's just the weakest one so far. But still, definitely on par with like a good Twilight Zone episodes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying it wasn't quite as good as the other ones, but it was still good.
Oh, and I have to say, Easter egg for all you horror nerds out there, like me. The second time I watched this episode, if you look in the funeral home book, like they do a close-up on it for a second, the first name in it is Herbert West. Yeah. The second name, deep cut, Francesco Della Morte.
I don't know that one.
Cemetery Man.
Oh, okay, no.
We have to do a review on that. I love it.
I don't think I've seen that one.
No, I don't think you have either. It's batshit insane.
Okay.
And I love it.
Okay, I'm ready.
But yeah, so there were other names too, but I couldn't read them. Like I sat there and because as soon as I saw the first two names, I was like, oh, epic. So I paused it, but I couldn't read the other ones. It was too messy. But I was just like, so look out for that. That's kind of cute. So the second segment, Times is Tough in Muskie Holler.
Yeah.
This one, like I said, this segment was kind of weird because it was really short. It was only like 15 minutes long, but it almost seemed like it was a longer story that they cut down to make the first one longer, because it seemed like there was a lot more they could have gone into. Because when I was first started watching it, I was just like, what the fuck is going on? It's like there's all these people in a prison, and then there's all these people talking about all these crimes you committed, and we're going to do this and that. And they had them on all these chairs with chains.
Yeah.
And it's like they're going to raise them. And I'm just like, and it took a while, and it just seemed like a lot of the story was told through like voiceover. Yeah. Like exposition, and and a lot of it was done in like comic panels.
Yeah, and then what it is that the movie starts, the story starts to fucking kind of narrow down into basically something out of The Walking Dead. It
is very Walking Dead-esque.
Right. Like something a local government from The Walking Dead would do to some people, for betraying the colony behind the zombies.
Yeah.
Basically. And it's a zombie story. But it's almost like something lifted directly out of The Walking Dead.
It is very condensed. Walking Dead-esque.
It wasn't bad. It's just that it was not shocking by today's standards because we have The Walking Dead. So it was kind of like something you'd seen before.
Yeah,
it didn't take as long to get to that.
Yeah.
Which maybe that was the problem with Walking Dead, is they'd beat around the bush for an entire season for something to actually happen. Well, they've kind of condensed it all down into about 15 minutes.
The only problem I had with this one was that, one, it seemed like I said, it seemed like a lot of the story was told like kind of clunkily, like in exposition, which I guess that was kind of like more indicative of, it's just a fairly low budget show. So maybe a lot of the like stuff that they were talking about, it's like, oh, the zombie apocalypse came and then this mayor like took over this town and started cracking down and like killing people that didn't agree with him, and so they're getting back at him, and the story kind of comes out, but a lot of it is not shown. It's either shown in like comic panels or it's told in voiceover, because I guess they couldn't really afford to shoot it. So the end of it is cool, like the end of it is really gory and stuff, but I do feel like a story that had this many moving parts, like, should have been a little bit longer, so they could have fleshed out. Because the thing is, it's like, there was no characterization. Like, they didn't really tell you exactly, like, what all these characters
you didn't know who was
did to, like, deserve their fates.
So
like,
it
was just, like, a bunch of faceless people, pretty much.
Yeah, so it doesn't really hit you the same way it would if it was, like, an entire season of The Walking Dead and they had built up a bunch of interest, invested a bunch of interest in these characters, then maybe it would hit you a different way.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You don't really know who they are.
But yeah, these are just like random people that are in a jail cell, and they're just like, oh, well, you suck because you did this, and you suck, so now we're just going to kill you. And then like 10 minutes later,
but you're indifferent.
Like, it's like, who cares? Who are these people? You know what I mean?
Right. So, but I'll tell you what, the effects were good. It did have a gruesome end to the people. Yeah. So it did deliver what it could within the time frame. Yeah. It's just that emotionally you didn't really care.
It could have been a bit longer.
And you'd seen it, and you'd seen this kind of stuff before. It just would have been something out of The Walking Dead. Yeah. Something that not Negan would have done, but the other guy, the one before Negan.
The governor?
The governor. It's like
this definitely seems like something the governor
would have. It would have been something that the governor would have done. Yeah.
You know what? And here's something that I didn't realize, because like I watched this 2 times like I usually do for the review. I didn't realize this the first time that I watched the episode, but the second time I watched it, these 2 stories, even though they seem unrelated, are related. Because at the end of the first segment, remember how I said the woman had the monkey's paw, and her last wish, she wanted to bring her husband back from the dead?
Oh,
and she went in the morgue and said, get up, or wake up, or whatever it was she said, and didn't specify. She just wanted him to get up, so everybody in the morgue sat up.
Yeah, I didn't
know. So then the next story, at the beginning they said, when she got to talking about the zombie apocalypse, she's like, oh, we didn't know why it happened, like all these dead bodies just started getting up and walking around.
Because she made that wish.
So I thought that was kind of like a cool little tie-in that I didn't really notice the first time, but the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty amusing. Yeah. But yeah, so that was episode 5. Like I said, probably the weakest one so far. But still pretty good. I think next week is the last one, so then we're gonna have to like get into doing some other reviews of stuff like that. But like I said, can't win them all. But this one's still pretty decent. But it was probably my least favorite of the season so far. All right. The second movie we watched this week was a Netflix original, I guess, or a Netflix exclusive.
I don't think it was an original.
It did have a brief theatrical release.
Yeah, it had a brief theatrical release, but I tell you what, man, this is Eddie Murphy's comeback movie.
This is such a good movie.
This movie was fucking badass. It's called Dolemite Is My Name. Yes. And it has Wesley Snipes in it, and everybody else. There's a bunch of other actors in there.
Chris Rock is in it. Snoop Dogg is in it.
Snoop Dogg is in it.
Cameos,
little cameos. And pretty much everybody knocks it out of the park in this movie.
I loved this movie.
This movie is kind of very much like the premise is a lot like Ed Wood.
Yeah, it's like the Ed Wood of blaxploitation.
Movies. And I don't like using the word blaxploitation. I'll tell that story in a bit, but it is very much kind of like the story, and it's hilarious as hell. All right. The story of a man's struggle to create film. Yeah. But it's not just film. He starts off doing albums and all kinds of... It's just this character, and I forgot what's his name. His name is Roy.
Rudy Ray Moore.
Rudy Ray Moore. That's his real name.
Essentially, it's not really. I guess it's kind of a biopic, but it's not really a biopic in the sense that it's about his whole life. It's just kind of about. It's mostly about him trying to make the movie Dolemite.
Now, Rudy Ray Moore and Eddie Murphy portrays Rudy, and Eddie knew Rudy.
Yeah.
Back 15 years ago, they hung out, and Rudy just wanted to go on tour. He didn't, he goes, Eddie, let's go on tour, together. And Eddie was like, no, man, we need to make a movie about you. And he's like, nobody wants to hear about me. But turns out, little did he know, this movie is fucking a badass flick in the same way that Ed Wood was a badass flick.
Yeah.
Although this one is a lot, it's funnier, I would think, but it's funnier because it's just a different way of being funny. I think it's very much two different times and, two different cultures.
Yeah.
So, but it's just a fucking badass flick. And I don't know. This one is Eddie Murphy's just tour de force. This is a great movie, and I've been an Eddie Murphy fan since I was a teenager.
It made me really happy to see him in this because it seems like this is like a really big comeback role for him, and you can tell that this was like a passion project. Yeah. Because like I said, he knew Rudy Ray Moore. Yeah. And he is like fascinated by the story of how the movie Dolemite got made, and like the whole backstory like behind it, like how Rudy Ray Moore started. He was like working in a record store, and he was like kind of a crappy comedian, like an MC at this club at night.
Yeah, he was a shake dancer. He was all kinds of weird shit.
Yeah, and he was like really trying
Real 2-bit kind of guy.
Yeah, and he was like trying to make records and stuff like that, but he was kind of like old-fashioned, and he was like really trying to
make a name for himself.
Be a star. Yeah. And like he had done all these other things, and it wasn't really working out and shit like that. So in a way, like the movie is, I'm sure they leave out like more problematic parts of his biography. I don't really know. Yeah. But it's almost kind of like it's a really optimistic movie because it's not only shows how he like reinvented himself as this other character, Dolemite,
how he dominated his scene,
but how he like actually got a movie made. Yeah. Like he got like all his friends together, he got like all of this film crew from like film school or something like that.
And on the back of the cult success of this movie, he had basically no support. He did it on his own. On the back of this one, I think he did 7 more.
I think there were 7 Dolemite.
And he did
I've only seen the first one. But.
Did a whole bunch of comedy records. And it never hit a nationwide audience. It was always, African-American audience. And it was kind of like a cult thing for them. Yeah. And I didn't know anything about it. Although a friend of mine told me, I don't like using the word blaxploitation. When I lived in Mississippi, I used to go to the French Quarter every weekend. Go down to the goth club down there on fucking Decatur Street, okay? And I ran into this old black guy. He was my dad's age, so he was in his late 50s, early 60s back then, okay? His name was Larry, also known as Larry the Pimp. That's who he was back in the 70s, and he loved the goth scene. He just fucking loved me, how I dressed. He was like, man, I should have been, that would have worked, that kind of stuff, and he understood, I guess you could say, he understood the goth aesthetic and how that could work, and he loaned me some books, okay, the Iceberg Slim books, and there were some other ones that I read, and they were really good. And he told me about Blackula. All right. And I ended up seeing that movie and loved it. But he told me, he says, white people call this blaxploitation, but it wasn't blaxploitation. It was just people making movies that we wanted to see. Yeah. So during those days, people in the white media labeled these movies as blaxploitation, but they weren't. They were just black theater. Yeah. It was the movies that black people wanted to see, and this movie gets into that issue because they were seeing movies that white people wanted to see, and they were just like, "What the fuck is this?
Why is this funny?"
And when you see the movie they're talking about, you're like, "Yeah, it's right. It was not funny."
Like, that's not for like I'm white and that's
it wasn't funny. If we were to go back to a time machine, me and Jenny, we wouldn't want to see that. We'd actually rather watch a Dolemite movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of bored of that.
Because they were pretty fucking boring, but. Yeah, but what happened to old Larry? Larry's retired. Larry got too old to be a pimp, and became a bank robber. And now he's serving the rest of his life behind bars. But that was his retirement plan. You know, he didn't really. Time had run out for Larry. Enough. So he went out with a blast. He didn't kill anybody, but he got a lot of time. He got caught on his first one. But, that's how... And he talked about Dolemite, but I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He told me about this guy.
He's kind of like... Well, he was kind of like a folk character.
He's a folk character, but he talked about these Rudy Ray Moore films.
Yeah.
And he'd asked me if I'd seen them. He kept telling me to see them. The only one that I actually saw was Blackula. Blackula and Scream, Blackula Scream, which was good too.
Yeah,
I have them both on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
I think we reviewed them, right? And I even talked about Larry then.
Yeah,
that's why that's why I
like I said, I had seen the first Dolemite, but I don't think I've seen any of the other ones. Although I very well may have, because I try to see all of those like exploitation flicks from back in the day, because I love those.
Yeah, like I said, they were not exploitation though. They were just they're labeled back retrospectively.
It's just an easy thing. Like
you know what you're talking about when you say that, but it's actually that's the white man putting a label on it.
Yeah,
it was just.
Although pretty much like after that, awesome. They kind of called everything that. Like there was nunsploitation. There was like Nazi exploitation.
Yeah, it became a joke, really.
Ilse, She-Wolf of the SS.
Yeah, it became a joke.
There's like Australian ones they called Ozploitation. You know what I mean? So it's like they just added that to everything just because it sounded funny. I guess. But
this one is definitely a must-see.
This is a really, really, really good movie. Like I said, it's just... It's not only just this whole like optimistic. It's funny as shit. Yeah. Like everybody that's in it is good. I think Wesley Snipes. He's like in it. He plays the guy that
he plays the director of the movie.
The director of the movie. He was kind of in.
And he does a great job in it. He does a great job in it. And I saw some interviews with Wesley after this movie, and he was just thrilled, absolutely honored to work with Eddie. And to be in this movie. He fucking loved this movie. And they're doing Coming to America 2. And it's the same director. And they said they've been listening to what everybody says, and they said this is going to be done right. It's going.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's going to be done right. After all
and everybody that was in Coming to America that is still alive is going to be in it.
Damn.
Okay. Including James Earl Jones. He's going to be in it.
Well, shit.
Sexual Chocolate's going to be in it. All right, remember him?
Yeah.
The Preacher's going to be in it. Everybody's going to be in this movie, and it is not going to be one of these newfangled movies. This is going to be an old school comedy movie. It's going to go the same way Chappelle's been going. It's going to, and it's the way this movie went. This movie, the writing in it was traditional comedy writing. From my point of view, this is traditional comedy writing.
Yeah.
And great traditional storytelling. And when you get, I recommended this movie to a bunch of people who saw it, and they got right back to me on Facebook. Everybody's loved it. Everybody's loved it.
And it seems like it's gotten almost universal acclaim. I mean, like all the reviews I've read of this, I think like 99% of them have been like rapturously positive. Mm-hmm. And I've even, a couple of them even were like saying, oh, maybe Eddie Murphy might get like an Oscar nod.
Very much.
Which would not shock me at all. Like I said, the cast in this is just so good. And you can like tell that everybody was just so excited to work on this project. It's a great story. It's just like a great...
You come out of the story walking on air. It's a very much of a feel-good story.
It is,
And it had all the trials and tribulations of a guy trying to make a movie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a guy with limited means to make a movie. But he's got a lot of good friends, and he pulls a lot of slick moves to get it done.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not gonna steal the movie's thunder. I'm not really going to talk about the movie itself.
And this is a guy, like I said, his character, and I can see why Eddie Murphy wanted to do this story because, I mean, Rudy Ray Moore was such, he was just such a determined individual. And it's just like, so you could feel like his frustration at the beginning. It's like he
not having any money.
Oh yeah, he really wanted to make something of himself, and he's tried this, that, and the other thing, and it's like nothing was working.
Right.
And it's like finally he hits on this, Dolemite character, and it's like a huge success, and he like starts making records, and they start selling all these copies. Right. And then he starts thinking to himself, he's like, it's big, but I'm just like a cult figure. I want to be like massive. I want everybody to know who I am. So he's like, I have to make a movie. Yeah. And that's kind of like, this is a very fast-paced.
Yeah, very fast-paced.
Like I said, it's not like a biopic in the sense where it's just like, but it's, because it's very much focused around the making of Dolemite. Like, and how it's led up
comedy-packed, A lot of character development in it. A lot of interesting characters. Lots of little stories and tales of people having hard times and coming out of hard times and making something, and having triumphs. Just a good flick, man. Just a good flick.
It is. It's a really feel-good movie.
I want to see it again already.
So do I. It's just it's got a great heart to it, and it's just
really fucking
and
funny.
It's funny as shit. And it's what I mean. It's and it's the kind of funny that back in the old days that they were doing that kind of cult comedy where they couldn't play it on the radio or anything like that because it was too dirty. So it's that kind of thing too. So it's got a real kind of filthy undertone, which I always really like. But
when I was back in high school, man, I just came up on the old school Eddie Murphy with the Raw and Delirious. Remember Raw and Delirious, his SNL stuff, and then Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. I fucking loved them. Coming to America, The Golden Child, all that really good classic Eddie Murphy stuff. Now later on, I liked Vampire in Brooklyn. I love that movie. I love that movie. Now later on, his stuff kind of he was okay in Tower Heist, even though I didn't like that movie.
Yeah.
I thought Eddie did a good job in it, but he said he's been on the couch for 5 or 6 years, and then he had to jump up off the couch and he made this. And on the back of this, from what they're saying about what they're doing right now with Coming to America 2, Coming to America 2 is gonna blow it out of the fucking water. They said they've been online hearing people saying, it better not be like this. Oh, I know you're not going to do this. I know you're not going to do this. Please don't make a movie like this. They know exactly what people want. They're going to give us what we want. Because some people, people from our generation grew up with that shit. You have certain expectations for the sequel to Coming to America. It's got to deliver. And they've promised us a badass flick. And on the back of this, seeing this one, I think they got it. That one's going to be good. I hope so too.
It actually does give me hope because this is a really good movie.
It just feels good to have Eddie Murphy back.
He's just fucking great in this. I mean, like I said, this is the comeback to end all comeback plan.
Excellent fucking movie. If you're not seeing this movie, you're fucking wrong. It's on Netflix. Go check it out. You guys will love it.
Like I said, it had a very brief theatrical run, but it just dropped on Netflix probably just a week or two ago.
Yeah, it's a great flick.
Dolemite Is My Name. So especially if you like a 70s cinema, filmmaking, anything like that.
If you liked Ed Wood.
Yeah,
you'd love this movie.
Yeah, this is kind of a different take on that.
Yeah, think of it as the Afro-American Ed Wood.
Yes,
you'll love it.
The theme is very similar.
Yeah, you'll love it.
But yeah, definitely go check this one out. Okay, and the third one, we went to the theater to see it, and I had actually been wanting to see this because, goth kid.
Yeah.
Addams Family.
Not bad. Good movie.
It actually was a little bit, it was better than I expected.
It was very gothic oriented for goth Gen Xers would know exactly what the movie's talking about. And it did hold true to the original intent of the Addams Family series.
Yeah.
Where the Addamses move into basically a haunted mansion right outside a mainstream town called Assimilation.
Yeah.
And that's really what
subtle.
That's really what the Addams Family and the Munsters were about. Were about dealing with the issues that some people did not assimilate.
Yeah.
That they were different than mainstream society. Therefore, they were gothic in a way. They had that, which, although some people might say that that's another form of conformity, but not really. It's just, but no, it did kind of hold true to the original ideas behind the Addams Family. And, but I thought the delivery was good, voice acting was great, animation was really good. It was a good story.
Yeah, they, so Oscar Isaac was was Gomez.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron was Morticia.
Yeah.
Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things and It Chapter 1 was Pugsley.
Yeah.
And Chloe Grace Moretz was Wednesday. Now I have to say, and this is probably true of the original show and the original cartoon, Wednesday was the best character, easily.
Yeah.
By far.
Although my only gripe about the movie was Wednesday. You know why?
Why?
Wednesday was not very cute.
She looked a little bit more like, because what they did with this one, which I kind of liked, was they went back to the look of, more like the look of the original Charles Addams cartoons from the 1930s.
Is that the way she was drawn
Like
then?
the New Yorker cartoons. Similarly.
Okay.
She was drawn very much like that.
When I think of Morticia Addams, I'm actually thinking of like Christina Ricci's interpretation.
Wednesday, you mean?
Excuse me, yeah, Wednesday. I was thinking more of Christina Ricci's interpretation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So she was kind of cute. And then that character makes more sense when she's cute. But in this one, she's drawn just with kind of like a bubble head.
Yeah.
And the other females out of this one, like remember the little mainstream girl that becomes her friend?
Yeah.
She's cute.
Yeah.
And she actually goes goth and ends up looking a modern goth with the shaved head, shit like that.
I used to have hair.
And when you looked at them side by side, what it means in animation is that Wednesday Addams was ugly.
Yeah.
And that didn't really that really, because in the TV series,
she was a cute.
She was cute.
Yeah.
And that's really, I thought that was the only thing that I went like, that's not really what the original TV series was like. And,
but like I said, they went
going
back,
more for the comic.
They went more for the comics, like the original comic panels.
Yeah.
That Charles Addams drew for the New Yorker.
Although
so, not exactly, but they're way more like reminiscent of that than they were.
Although Morticia was drawn as attractive.
Yeah.
You know, and she was attractive in the television series too. She was kind of attractive in this, but kind of in a skeletal kind of a way.
Yeah, they made her very, very like skinny.
Yeah, too skinny if you ask me.
And then,
but we're talking about damn fucking.
They're cartoon characters.
We're talking about cartoon characters. So,
but and I think Oscar Isaac did a great job as Gomez.
He knocked it out of the park.
I really liked him,
and also the way it's animated, the way he looked.
Yeah.
That's the way Gomez would have looked, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't really think that Uncle Fester looked like my idea of Uncle Fester all the time with his big old long hook nose and that big sausage nose.
But like I said,
was he drawn like that?
I think he had that in the cartoon, yeah.
Right.
I have like a book of Charles Addams cartoons. I have to look it up because I can't remember exactly what they look like. But I remember when I saw the trailer. Now the interesting thing about this, I was excited about because I was like, "Ooh, Addams! I'm like anything Addams Family. I want to see that shit because I love it." But when I first saw the trailer, I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if that looks good or not." Like not so much like I thought. Like the look of it was cool, but I don't know.
It's worth seeing.
I thought the tone of it was weird, but
it's worth seeing.
The thing that I thought was kind of neat about this, I was expecting it to be. It's a kids movie, like it's PG. But it's not as much of a kids movie as I was expecting.
Right.
Like, in a way, like, it's not... Because you know how a lot of kids' movies... And I don't mind this, because I like animated movies and stuff. But a lot of them are, like, really fast-paced and zany. And, you know, there's all these, like... You know, long sequences of, like, people falling on their asses and, like, fighting and doing... There's really none of that.
No.
Not really. It's almost kind of, like, paced like a normal movie. Like, it's kind of, like, you know, slow. And there's conversations and... It's not too wacky. You know what I mean?
It is an adult movie. It has a kid's subtext.
Yeah.
A kid can interpret it. Like, there were a couple of kids in the... Matter of fact, it was just... We saw an early...
it was like 2 in the afternoon.
2 in the afternoon. It was me and Jenny, and then a mother with 2 kids.
I think it was 2 kids.
And those 2 little kids were quiet as hell through the whole thing. They liked it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were. I was like, oh, they're going to be making all kinds of noise. But no,
they didn't.
They were into They were like, oh, wow. Yeah, you know. So they liked it, but they didn't really. They didn't get the deeper meanings of the movie about like assimilation and you know, conformity to societal norms. They didn't really get what that was all about. And then you find out that the woman that is preaching all this conformity to societal norms is a criminal.
Yeah, that she's
she's
a bigger freak than anybody.
She's calling the Addams a bunch of freaks, but the Addams aren't doing anything wrong.
They're not doing anything wrong.
They're
just like super cool. And in a way, like I've always been like super charmed by the Addams Family.
Yeah.
I mean, probably like most people have. Because growing up, like I said, Morticia was like my spirit animal. You know what I mean? And I just used to love the show because I loved the whole thing about the show because the Addams Family were, you know, they weren't mean. They were very like good-hearted. They just really liked spooky shit, and you know, they liked blowing their own house up, and they had like
they threatened a lot of shit about we're gonna hang this person and cut this person's head. That never happens.
They don't do it. They're not serial killers and stuff like that. So So you're into it, and you can see like how the normal people are like the bad guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I always kind of related to, because I'm always
but they weren't the normal people weren't the bad guys in this.
Well, mainly that one.
Just the leader of the
for a while they were, because they kind of like all fell in behind her, because let's burn them down.
But in this story, the normal people realized that, hey, they're just like us.
They're just like us.
You know, we've been fooled by this woman telling us that they were monsters, but they're actually just like us.
They're actually just regular
So I liked
people.
that part of the movie, because it didn't condemn society as a whole. It just condemned the leadership of that society, the way that it was being spun, and that they were using basically kind of like fake news on the internet to fucking demonize people.
Yeah, because that's one thing that normal woman was doing.
Yeah, she was going on the internet spreading.
She was telling them, spreading all kind of
rumors that weren't true about them and stuff, and that which is that kind of goes back to the Satanic Panic era.
I was very much reminded of that.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, if you're into goth culture, there will be a lot of.
You will know exactly what this is about.
You'll know exactly what this is about, and also I like that there was some jokes in there that were a little bit adult, like it was like right at the beginning, because this has a little bit of like a prequel, because you get to see where
how they got driven out of the old country.
Yeah, because like Gomez and Morticia, it's like their wedding. Yeah. Like in the old country, and then like all the villagers come with all the torches, you know, and everything, and they have to run away, and how they find Lurch and everything like that before they move to the house that they kind of are famous for, and shit like that. So I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah. And another thing that I thought was cool was that at the very end they did an animated version of the opening from the TV show from the 60s. Like it's exactly the same,
theme song
but animated. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. But there was like a lot of really cute shit in this. Like I said, like right near the beginning, like Uncle Fester, they're all like climbing up the mountain like to get away from the villagers. And Uncle Fester says something like, "Oh, I can see my house from here." Oh no, that's a women's prison. That made me laugh like really harder than anything.
It did have kind of a dark feeling to it. There were certain areas where it kind of felt a little spooky inside the house, because the house just keeps going, "Get out!" It's a haunted house. It was nothing that a kid couldn't handle. It had good visuals.
Yeah, it's not scary.
And it's also not super deep. This would have been, when I was in my 20s, I'd have loved to have like smoked a joint and went to see this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, man. Oh, we're going to stay and let's see it again.
Yeah. It definitely does seem like that. I feel like this will get, like, I feel like the live action ones, that had Raul Julia and Angelica Houston were probably better. Like this one is kind of like this one's kind of lightweight.
I think so
compared to that, but I really liked the animation. I liked the look of the inside of the house. I liked all the voice acting was really good, and I liked that they went back to the kind of more original look of the characters. I thought that was a cool idea. You know what I mean? But
I had a good time with it. There's really nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
there was nothing wrong with it.
It's just a fun.
My only gripe is that my version of Wednesday Addams
wasn't cute.
Was cute. She wasn't.
I thought she was cute in this, but yeah, she did
have a bubble head.
She did have a big head.
She had a bubble head. It was kind of weird with no neck next to her friend that she met who gothed out. And I was like, wait a minute, Wednesday should probably look like that.
Parker was the friend.
Yeah, Parker. Name. Yeah, Wednesday should have looked more like.
But
Parker.
Wednesday, like when Wednesday wanted to go to regular middle school or whatever that was.
Funny. Yeah, she went to,
that was the best part. Yeah. So I think that was the best part, like in the science class and everything, and also in all the shit she talked to like the other students that were.
They nailed Gomez though.
They did.
Nailed Gomez.
Like I said, Oscar Isaac.
And they nailed Pugsley.
Yeah.
I think pretty much they nailed Lurch. I think they did a really good job with Lurch. Cousin It was played by Snoop Dogg. You can't really tell because
he's just going like Cousin It does.
Yeah. But the grandma.
Yeah. That was Bette Midler, I think.
Yeah. Morticia, the Morticia, the voice of Morticia, and the character was really good.
Charlize Theron.
I didn't really think that the way the animated character looked was quite right, but all right, whatever. That's how they're going to do it.
Like I said, they did it a lot more like the cartoons.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like that. It's this was just like a super fun, and especially like I said, if you're an old goth like I am. And I grew up watching the Addams Family show, and also the big book of the cartoons, because I always really liked.
All our goth friends and the goth DJ Mouse, she went like, "Oh no, you got to see this one. This is a good one." Or that?
Yeah,
Mouse?
this is for all the old goth kids out there.
I got to see this one.
So
You'll know exactly what this is about.
So you got to go check it out. There'll be some. You'll definitely like see some stuff in there that you'll relate to. I mean, I certainly did. But yeah, so take the kids. It's a fun time.